Welcome back to the Angry Man Podcast with Jason and Greg. So Jay, Tim Bradley is back at it doing what he does best, which is criticize the PBC. His latest foray into criticizing the PBC includes the criticism associated with the Keith Thurman versus Tszyu fight. Now, I want to play this clip from ESPN with Tim Bradley on it. Hear what Tim Bradley had to say, and then I want you and I to come back and react to it. So let me get the clip up, Jay, and here we go.
What are we doing? Amazon, you're supposed to be building boxing. You turned it right down again with these type of matchups. Like, whoever's in charge over there, y'all don't know what y'all doing. Y'all don't understand this business at all, because you put a fighter that hasn't been in the ring, hasn't fought at 154 pounds to begin with, first of all, hasn't been in the ring in over 2 years. And you put him in a ring with a lion like Tszyu, you serve him up on a platter like that in basically a non-competitive fight. How does that make any sense? It's a terrible matchup. I honestly think that this is a gift for Thurman. I don't even know why he's getting this type of gift at all. I can name 4 more people that deserve a fight with Tszyu than Keith Thurman. But anyhow, I'm pretty sure a lot of fans out there is going to buy this mess. I'm letting y'all know right now, I'm not buying it. It's a terrible matchup. It's a mismatch. Keith Thurman's going to get knocked out, and he's going to get knocked out with a body shot.
So that is what Tim Bradley had to say. Now, Jay, you and I, we pride ourselves on being open to hearing different opinions on this particular platform. We try to be fair and balanced. Not necessarily saying that you and I are fair and balanced, but we allow other thoughts, other perspectives on this channel, because we are not the foremost authority on boxing. So I'm happy to hear what Tim Bradley had to say in regards to the PBC and their latest venture in terms of their first fight with Amazon Prime. So when I listen to what Tim Bradley had to say, quite honestly, Jay, I think there's some truth in what he had to say. When you think about Keith Thurman and the fact that he's moving up from 147 pounds to 154, this is going to be his first time fighting at 154. Keith Thurman hasn't done anything to garner this type of fight at 154 other than having the name recognition. Also, Keith Thurman has been out of the ring for quite some time, which makes, I don't know, it makes me believe that there is the possibility that this fight could be a mismatch, considering his performance in his last 2 fights. And now he's moving up to 154 with a fighter that has demonstrated himself to be elite at 154. So I can understand what Tim Bradley is saying, and I can respect it. In the same breath, you're sitting up there and you're saying, okay, who is it over there that's actually running the show? You guys don't know anything about the sport of boxing. Well, we know who's running the show over there, and it's Al Heyman. And Al Heyman has been in the sport for quite some time. So clearly he knows what he's doing. As a matter of fact, PBC is responsible for, the 3 biggest fights that we've seen in the last, 4 or 5 years? Where you got Canelo Alvarez versus Jermell Charlo. You got Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence, and you have Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia. All of those fights by the PBC. Now, don't get me wrong. The Jermell Charlo and Canelo Alvarez fight, that performance, that was lackluster, and it should be criticized, and we criticize that fight on this particular platform. But Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford, everybody was clamoring for that fight. It's the biggest fight in the sport at the time, and guess what? It materialized with PBC. They are the ones that made that happen. Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia, massive fight for the sport, right? So PBC is putting on the biggest and best fights in the game right now. So when you then turn around and criticize them just because Canelo Alvarez versus Jermell Charlo, who had been out of the ring for quite some time, didn't perform up, hey, give them the benefit of the doubt, because at the end of the day, they are putting on the best cards with the best name recognition, right? If you want to criticize them, criticize them. No one's perfect. That entity is not perfect either. But the level of criticism that we're getting from Tim Bradley is a bit suspect for me. Now, I don't see this same energy from Tim Bradley as it relates to ESPN whatsoever, because ESPN has put on some terrible cards. Top Rank has put on some terrible cards. We've seen terrible performances from top-ranked fighters. And although I've seen Tim Bradley criticized to some extent, but like depending on who the name is, you get far less criticism. Keyshawn Davis in his last performance on ESPN, his performance was terrible. Instead of calling it a terrible performance, he made excuses for him. His tummy hurts. He had a bad tummy. So why are you making excuses for those fighters and you're not making excuses for the PBC, or you're criticizing the PBC? I like Tim Bradley. I think if he wants to be the personality that he is in terms of having his own voice and opinion, then he should get off ESPN, because the way that he's bringing this, and this is on an ESPN platform, it almost sounds like he's bringing you news, but it's not unbiased because he's associated with the competition. You know what I mean? So I have a problem with that you have this strong of an opinion when you know that you're coming from a platform, which is the competition, that makes what you say disingenuous. And that's my biggest problem with Tim Bradley. Not only that, though, I have another problem with Tim Bradley. So he's criticizing Keith Thurman moving up to face Tszyu, right? He has absolutely no issue with that. But he's perfectly fine with Terrence Crawford moving up 3 weight classes to fight Canelo Alvarez. Make it make sense. Why is Terrence Crawford okay, but Keith Thurman is not? Because there's no difference to me personally. Like, yes, Terrence Crawford is a better fighter. You can come in the comment section and argue that Terrence Crawford is a better fighter. He's the number 1 pound for pound fighter. I don't care about none of that. The fact remains is that Keith Thurman is an elite fighter as well, and he's moving up 1 weight division to fight a fighter. Terrence Crawford is an elite fighter, more elite than Keith Thurman, number 1 pound for pound fighter in the sport, but he's still jumping up 3 weight classes to fight Canelo Alvarez. Yet you're an advocate for one and against the other. It doesn't make any sense to me, Jay. So I know I've been rambling for a while, Jay. I'm already at this almost a 7-minute mark, man. But it's just some of the stuff that he says, Tim Bradley, it just really irks me. Even when I think in part he's correct, but I think it's coming from a biased standpoint. Jay, what's your thoughts on this?
I mean, you pretty much hit all the major points, you know. And just to piggyback off of that, you know, I mean, we're fans of boxing. Yeah, we may lean a little bit more towards one just because of the product they put out. But I just want to see great boxing matches, period. And we've been critical, to your point, of Jermell Charlo and Canelo. I've been very critical of that fight because that's a fight no one asked for. No one wanted. You know, but that's more so on Canelo because Canelo's driving everything on that. Who he's fighting, who he's not fighting. We know the elephant in the room is Dave Benavidez. So he's not fighting that guy. Now, Tim didn't say jack shit about Shakur being skipped over with Loma when Loma lost to Dev and they put Loma back at number 1. He didn't say nothing about that. He was radio silent on that. That was cool. It was cool when Loma ducked off and didn't fight Shakur. He's fighting Kambosos. That's cool. He's also quiet about the Navarrete fighting the Denny's guy instead of Shakur. That's cool. He's radio silent on that. He's also quiet on the fact that Keyshawn Davis is fighting Pedraza, who hasn't fought at 135 since 2019. He's 34 years old. He's coming off 2 losses and a draw. That's cool to sacrifice that guy. You know, I mean, just keep the same energy, dude. It's not cool. It's not fair on either side, but you don't keep the same energy. He's a business guy for Top Rank. I get that, but you still got to be somewhat fair. Ryan called his ass out as well for being super biased. He called Ryan a clown and like a zoo or something like that Ryan said. Ryan was pissed off about that. Ryan said, hey, we can sidebar, we can talk this out separately. He said Tim's going to be fired for being overly biased. I agree with that because I'm tired of him just going all out. I'm like, look, stop trying to make it's like, you know, clicks like PBC versus Top Rank versus Matchroom. Look, we want to see boxing. We want to see great matches. I agree. I don't think Keith deserves the fight against Tim. I'd much rather see quite a few other fighters, you know, but it's still an intriguing matchup. We'll see how it pans out for him, you know, but he doesn't have the same energy for anything that goes on Top Rank side. It's always cool. Like to your point about Keyshawn Davis' prior fight, his stomach was hurting, so it's okay. He makes all these damn excuses, but then he wants to ether PBC. Just keep the same energy, bro. Keep the same energy and put it on them as well. Because we want to see the great box. That's what we want to see, whether it's PBC, Top Rank, Matchroom, the Zone. I don't care who it is. We just want to see great matches. We're not getting that all the time, especially from Top Rank. Top Rank hasn't put on the best shows. And we were critical about this card here, the PBC first card on Amazon. We were critical, like, okay, we're not necessarily saying it's to be a pay-per-view, but they're kind of stacking it with the other fighters they have on this card. And we know that this is their first venture off, so they might want to start low and build up. They don't want to just start high and then it'd be a failure like some other companies have done. So I'm not too mad at that, but Tim is just his energy just ain't the same. And it's annoying and it's very obvious that he's biased to one side only. Just tired of it.
Yeah, be if you're a commentator for ESPN, be that and stop being so critical. Then going on these platforms and then also being an analyst for boxing overall, right? That's the problem that I have, right? If you want to be a personality, be a personality. If you're gonna be an analyst, be an analyst. But you can't be both, right? You can't be on the competition talking poorly about the other side. The other side don't talk about you. So clearly, you doing exactly what top ranking ESPN has been accused of for a long time, piggybacking off the name of other fighters, in this particular case, another entity. So you guys tell us what you think in the comment section in regards to what Tim Bradley had to say. I'm not saying that there's not some truth in what he's saying, but there is a level of bias, and I feel like he has to keep the same energy for both sides. It is what it is. Don't forget to hate, like, comment, and subscribe. This is the Angry Man Podcast, AM Sports Media, and we are out.